Hello and welcome to this Lightroom tutorial, and I'm going to show you one very specific thing, and that is the radial gradient. But first, let's jump into Lightroom right here. I have this macro photo of a fly that I took a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just going to start editing how I usually would when I start working on a picture like this. So the first thing I do is I usually go into the crop, set 4 to 5 because that is the Instagram standard. I kind of like try to make sure that my subject is in the middle of the frame, kind of looking at the three or the thirds view. What is it called? The rule of thirds. That's the one. Kind of make sure that it's like, yeah, that like that. Press enter to accept. And then I'm just going to go through here, check how the exposure works. Again, something that is really good if you are starting off with Lightroom, make sure that you are recording in RAW when you are taking photos, because you'll be able to do much more than if you were just shooting in JPEG, no matter what the size of your JPEG is. So I'm just going to play around here a little bit, I think I'm going to leave the exposure the way it is. I'm going to bump up the contrast a little bit like this. Bring down the highlights so I can get that detail in those overblown shots, something that can only be done if you have been shooting RAW. Take down the shadows a little bit to add a little bit of contrast. Bring up the whites if that works. Yeah, that looks good. There you go. As you can see, a lot of what I do in editing in Lightroom is pretty much just playing around with the things, going back and forth, and just seeing what works. And this works, and I'm happy with that. What do we got here now? Color. Am I going to do the point? No, I'm not going to do the point curve. We don't need the point curve. I think I'm fine with that. That's not part of this tutorial. One day, maybe I will talk about the point curve, but that day is not today. We don't need to change anything here in the white balance because I usually shoot with automatic white balance. I know that's not necessarily good to have anything on auto, but I don't really want to think about it. Vibrance is good. Maybe I could take it down a little bit. Give it that little bit of a feeling of being somewhere in the middle of a dying forest because it is autumn, fall. Not going to do anything on the color mixer because the colors seem pretty good to me. I'm going to up the texture a little bit just because that's something that's really good about this, is that you can really see the nice texture on the eyes and everything. Look at that coming out. Oh yeah, looks good. Get some clarity in there. Get that separation from the background on the sides here. And I can see here I have a little bit of discoloration on the leaves, so I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and click Remove Chromatic Aberration. All right. Now we have our picture here together. I'm going to add a little bit of a vignette because I like doing that too. But now I have this subject in the middle and he needs to stand out. One really good way of doing that is by creating a radial gradient. And by clicking on this, I get a new tab here with almost all of these sliders that I had in the previous normal editing mode setting. And all I have to do now is draw a little circle around the subject like that. Feather is at 100%. We'll see if we want that, but yeah, here we go. And now whatever I change in this tab will change only within this circle. So if you want to sharpen an image, for example, because you really want to have that sharpening pop, you can do this, and then you will only sharpen that one subject that's within that circle and nothing around the outside. So this is a good way to kind of really make your subject pop. So we can add, just to kind of, as an example, let's do something crazy and up the exposure. So you can see how like you can really focus in on this one thing. And then by doing this, you can even make it darker and then invert it. And then you have like a really, I mean, obviously this is a little bit too extreme, but you can get a really strong vignette going and really focus on your subject like that. And honestly, this could be kind of cool. Make it a little bit like this. There you go. Take that contrast up. Just really extreme stuff. Oh, okay, maybe not that extreme. Take up the texture. And do all the things that you would normally do. Sharpen, unsharpen actually, because we're on the other side, we're inverting. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Or am I kidding myself? No, look at that. That looks good. I like it. I like it a lot. That's post-worthy. So with just this one tool, I was able to take something that looks very just, oh, I didn't want to do that. Something that looks very typical of just, there's a fly on a leaf, that's fine, to something that looks much more interesting, have a lot more contrast, makes it something different. Yeah, I like this. This is good. And there we go. There's a nice finished photo where the subject really pops out. I gotta say, the post I did for Instagram was not as good as this one. I kind of like this one more. Maybe I need to repost this. Anyway, that is it for me. I hope you will use the radial gradient in your photos as well. It's a really good way to make the subject stand out or the logo stand out or whatever. Or if you need to change a color or sharpening in a specific part of the image and nothing else. And with that, see you next time.